Good evening, David.
Good
was
evening.
the COVID lockdowns an experiment in the battery farming of humanity?
Well, I need to give you a health warning here, Laurence. I'm afraid I am at the other end of the spectrum from where you're coming. I believe that the lockdowns were an entirely good thing. I think the evidence is overwhelming, and if you'll give me the chance, I will go through some of the scientific data that we've got so far on the effects of lockdown and what it's done to save lives. So
Well,
that's where I'm coming from.
I appreciate that we are at different places on our journey through life, but
Yes.
rather than examining data, would you say that your access to the data and your thinking about data was affected by your age?
No, I don't think so. For the 2 years of COVID, I had a very privileged life in that, unlike everybody else who was stuck in lockdown, I was locked down here in this clinic looking after patients who had COVID. I was running the local COVID hub. And the first thing we thought about was caring for our patients in this terrible disease. My age didn't come into it, really. I've caught COVID twice and I've had no problems.
Do you think the government ignored the science in regards to the second lockdown particularly?
I think I'm afraid if we start dissecting out the individual lockdowns, I won't have the evidence. I think we got the first bit right, the first bit wrong, and I think we got the second bit right. I think by some extraordinary collection of different things, we've managed to steer a course so that our population as a whole now has a large amount of resistance to COVID. And we did, on the second lockdown, perhaps overdo it. But on the first lockdown, we were too late. So I think we lost a lot of lives at the beginning. And I think we've managed to get it just about right now, whereas China has got it slightly wrong. But I think the evidence is overwhelming that the countries that did lockdown early saved many more lives than we did.
And what do you make of the suppression? You know, as we see these WhatsApps reveal themselves, do you think that we're being given a narrative? What do you make of the suppression of alternative treatments, of repurposed drugs and things like this?
Well, you know far more about this than I'm afraid. I'm afraid the Telegraph is on the side of a paywall, and I don't think I want to burden my life with a right-wing journal. But it's not in the Telegraph. WhatsApps are very revealing in terms of the discussions that were had, but the data is absolutely clear that we got some things very right. The vaccines, which again I noticed that you're a little hesitant about. The vaccines saved millions of lives. Lockdown saved millions of lives. And what's so fascinating, of course, is that some of the data comes from very political sources. If you look at Democratic states in the United States and Republican states in the United States, which had very different attitudes to lockdown and mask wearing, for instance, you'll find that the death toll in the Republican states was 38% higher than those in the Democratic states. So we've actually got data, not only in science, but in politics, that shows us...
But they didn't destroy their economies in the process. And, you know, the thing that I don't enjoy about the COVID debate is flinging around data, because I can fling around data talking about, you know, if people took more vitamin D, they'd be fine.
Data is fundamentally important with this. It's great to have feelings and the ability to talk about everything, which is great, but you need to have firm scientific data to present evidence for and against lockdown.
But the scientists said that we should lock down for Omicron, a cold.
Well, please, the data is there. If you want to know, I can't split it out in lots, but I promise you, lockdowns done in 11 European countries saved 3 million lives. And the death rate that we have in the UK, 220,000 people compared to 2,500 people in New Zealand. I know a smaller population, but
can you understand why the public...
We know that these things work. And the tragedies of lockdown, as lots of people have said, are there. It was very isolating for a lot of people. There's a lot of disease that I'm spending my life unearthing now because people didn't come forward during lockdown. The mental health was extraordinary, but those were extraordinary times. If you could have sat in my clinic in April 2020, the ambulances were queuing down the drive
Well, forgive me, David. Forgive me. Sorry, forgive me. In April 2020, excuse me. In April 2020, I was sat watching my mother die, and then I was attending her funeral alone with my family while these bullshitters in Parliament were partying. So I'm done.